Actually, I figured it out. Thank you, though. That's true. No meaning you should, but I'm here too. Oh, I saw you on the list. Yeah. Oh. Do it. Yeah. Let me grab no. Not because I was having fun. It's because I tried to teach you once. No, it's not. Kelly's on maternity leave. Kelly's been on maternity leave since August. Kelly is she is the glue that keeps me sane. She is I've changed her title like twice. Yeah, she's my legal.
Oh, so.
Are you trying to copy?
So I'm trying to copy.
Yeah,
we should do this.
Yeah.
She is the one that pretty much does.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Come on.
She kind of manages to do this.
Or
There you go.
says
This link right here.
Okay.
Command
A, Command C, and then if you go to the other,
Where I need to.
and
Awesome.
then Command V. So I guess it's instead of Control, it's Command.
Oh, okay. That's different.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm just like muscle memory it.
Thank you.
Are you all set? Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna send out the email now.
Oh, perfect. That's why we gotta send an email.
I'm sending it from yours. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. And then I'll give you this and that. And it sounds like you've got your Meg's credit card on yours, right?
Yeah, I can just use hers.
Just use hers.
No, it's not really
My card to pay for.
I'm not going to post it.
I'm gonna give that to you, and I've already let them know. I'll send you the What's your cell phone by today?
It's 828-773-5616.
561. Okay, I'm gonna text you the address. So you just put that in your Uber.
Okay.
And then you should be all set.
Okay, so this is all good.
Okay, perfect. It's already like set.
Yep,
and,
it's like on it. It's started.
And all they're gonna do is just click on it and watch, right?
Yep. So all I have to do is click the link and it'll take me right to it.
Okay. All right. So 34.
I can actually,
Yeah.
so I'm going to
Okay.
which is like,
Okay, so that means we didn't need to go. Last. But I need so much. Like, congested. I was doing it this time.
Then open up the door. Then open up the door.
These are strange years, and she's like, no, she's like, didn't have any pictures. She said, I'm surprised you didn't heard of that. Because, or like some form of it, because I had so much food, like, they're bringing, they're
Oh, okay.
and then so I was on this like regimen where you take 4 days, all these days, to like figure it out.
Yes.
Until things come back to me. You know, that all this is, it works wonderful. If you're getting that type of,
Yeah.
because that's a question for better. So, yeah, I am looking for the but get the, if you can't get the
You want the calls.
yeah, oh, it's awesome. I just like keep it, like I got it.
That would clear my silence.
I have that. Well, I woke up in calls like greatest call greatest He's like, I'm taking you to the hospital right now.
Don't leave with these
Yeah,
guys.
no, he's not really worried about me.
I get it. I totally get it.
So, no conversation.
No, I told him to. Well, so look. It's good. We got good facts. We got good voters. Oh. Oh. Phil.
And it's also
I mean, wow. See, I'm telling you, that's something. Oh, thank you.
It's actually smart.
And also,
If it was like, yeah, I just noticed that. I was like, I think I'm good.
And then so
Yeah. Yeah. No. That's what my friend. She's asking what I was like, oh, okay. It's like a very Right, I know that. Yeah. You like keep it right? Yeah, he's just more selfish. It's a little bit.
Later that day. One thing we're gonna kind
Done. Yeah.
Actually, that's more true. Baseball fan. Used to this. That's what I was saying. Like, you have to be able to separate them on.
Hello, and welcome to OpenWork. I'm Mark Sherby, the Managing Vice President of Guerrero Media. At Guerrero Media, our purpose is to recognize, promote, and develop great executives. We do that primarily through content or stories for and about executives, and then we publish those stories in one of our 6 brands. At Guerrero, we know that behind every great business story, is a story about an executive. But what we also know is that behind every successful executive is a team, a high-performing team. And in a few minutes, we'll experience that teamwork firsthand. We'll hear from Jason Brown, General Counsel for Americas at Dyson, about what he's learned about business through his work in the community. But before that, we'll hear about him from a member of his team, Ross Wiseman, who's a partner at Kirkland & Ellis. The goal of OpenWork is to expose our employees, our clients, and Guerrero's audiences to some of the world's most inspiring business minds. Today, you witness firsthand how Guerrero Media brings its purpose to life through live talks, open leaders, providing powerful insights. And with that, I'll turn the stage over to Ross, who will tell us a little bit more about Jason.
Okay, thanks, guys. As you heard, my name's Ross Weissman. I'm with the Chicago office of Kirkland & Ellis. I'm the eye candy of today's presentation. I have the honor today of presenting Jason Brown, the General Counsel of Dyson. Now, what's really interesting about Jason, what some people don't realize, but I always like to tell them, is that Jason didn't just start at Dyson as General Counsel. In fact, he was one of the test cases for the Dyson hairdryer. As you can see, they had to make a number of modifications before it went to general production. Now, that said, in all seriousness, I first met Jason when he started at Dyson's General Counsel 5 years ago. And I was immediately struck by how smart he is, his tremendous strategic thinking, and his leadership qualities. But just as important as that, I was also struck by how kind of a person he is, how wise he is, and how great of a friend he is. And it made me also realize that Dyson had really struck gold, as well as us at Kirkland & Ellis being able to work with Jason, because he is simply the best. And I think that a lot of what comes from Jason comes from his extensive and expansive background, because he's done a lot of really interesting things that I think make him particularly apt to be able to talk to you today about making an impact in your community and helping to make an impact in your career and taking those kinds of chances. So let me tell you a little bit about what Jason has done in his past. He went to Howard University for both his undergraduate and law degrees. Were you a law review? I know you weren't. Anyway, that would be a good thing if you were a law review. That's sort of an inside joke. So after graduating from Howard, he started in practice in outside law firms, first at a firm in Minneapolis called Winthrop and Weinstein. Then he came to Chicago and worked for Ungredi and Harris, both outstanding law firms. At that point, he took his talents to outside practice, first at Pepsi. Then he was at the National Association of Minority and Women-owned law firms. He also was at Miller Coors before starting at Dyson. He's also a member of a number of important boards in Chicago, first Legal Prep, where he's the vice chair, and also the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Just in case that's not enough, Jason is also the deacon of the Second Baptist Church of Elgin. And it's based on that I've actually asked him to attend rabbinical school so he could become a rabbi at our temple. But he thinks that's a bridge too far. I don't know. That's just what Now, with all that said, again, I think that's given that background and all of his various experiences, I think that's why he's such a great person to be talking to you today about the topics he's going to. And I just want to talk in particular about one aspect of that, and that is diversity, which is just one of the many things he'll be talking about today. You know, Jason has required Kirkland to make sure that we provide him with the most diverse teams. And Jason's view on that is not just that it gives opportunities to people who may not get them otherwise, and that it's the right thing to do, which both of those things are very important to Jason, and he's right. But the most important thing to Jason is, and he's made this very clear to us, is that if I don't have diversity, diverse ideas, I'm not going to get the best results, because if everyone thinks the same way, I'm not going to get that creativity that I need. And as I said, oftentimes as outside counsel, you're supposed to be teaching in-house counsel about the various legal issues. I find myself all the time learning from Jason about law and about life. So it is with that that I give you Jason Brown, outstanding lawyer and great friend, Jason.
Hello, everybody. Don't worry, I'm not going to stand behind this podium the entire time. But I need to do this, and my first caveat of the day is an apology to you all. Over the weekend, I contracted somewhat of a cold, so I'm kind of struggling a little bit, so my voice is not what it normally is, so I apologize for that. And also, I'm going to be leaning on that water quite a bit just to make sure I can get through the next few minutes of our speech. So anyway, with that, here I am. I'm thrilled to be here. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day for welcoming me and being here. I'd like to thank all the good folks at Guerrero Media for thinking that I would be worthy enough to come here and speak to you on this panel. Oh, there I am. Well, okay. There we go. But anyway, I'm really excited to be here, and hope that I share something with you today that you can take back with you to the office and make this a memorable afternoon. I want to thank Ross for the introduction. I definitely appreciate that. It's kind of weird hearing somebody introduce you, saying all those nice things to you that they never say to your face. So I appreciate those kind words from Ross. So today I'm not going to keep you long. I actually have just a few things I want to talk about, a few things I want to highlight, some stories that are roped into that about me and really about my perspective when it comes to life and work and how they all mesh together. Some things about which I believe help you become more successful, some tools that I've used in my life that I would also like to share with you. So 3 things are very simple. First thing is embrace the opportunity for teachable moments. Embracing teachable moments. The second thing is fail like a champ. I think you need to learn how to fail like a champion. And the third thing, and most important thing today you learn, is avoid work-life balance. I think you need to avoid it entirely. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what I mean about that. So first, let me talk a little bit about embracing the teachable moment. A teachable moment for me is the opportunity for you to, excuse me, I'm gonna be doing this a lot, so I apologize for that. The teachable moment is the opportunity for you to provide a bit of your wisdom, a bit of your knowledge, maybe your time, maybe it's your money, to a cause that's bigger than you. Now, sometimes these teachable moments are very obvious. That something big, a tragedy happens, and you jump in and really add to the situation by trying to help out. Some of them are really small. They happen in an instant. It's just a conversation, something that you say to somebody. The way you say it to somebody is a teachable moment for them and potentially for you. Now, in my life, my first remembrance of a teachable moment, a big opportunity for me happened over 20 years ago. When I was a first year coming out of law school, as Ross mentioned, my first law firm was Winthrop & Weinstein. It was in my hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Wow, no shout-outs, no one from Minneapolis. That's all right. I can still roll with it. So my hometown of Minneapolis. Now, back when I started practicing law, you dressed like Ross did in a full suit and tie every day. There was no casual clothes in the law firm. Actually, my the partner that I worked with used to say to me famously, Jason, there is absolutely nothing casual about the practice of law. So I wore a suit and tie every day. So just a little backdrop on that. So one day, it was a nice day outside in Minneapolis, which doesn't happen a lot. And so I decided to walk to lunch with one of my colleagues, also a first year lawyer, also African-American, also rare in Minneapolis. So here we are going down to grab lunch and had a nice lunch. We were walking back, and on the street corner, before we crossed to where our building was, 2 young African-American girls were standing next to us. So we noticed them. You know, my first thought was, like, shouldn't you be in school? But, you know, at that point, I wasn't a father, so I didn't really care that much. But my second thought was, oh, okay, hey, there's, two young Black girls here, and, they see us, that's probably kind of cool. The young girl, we spoke to them. First young girl next to me, they're about 12, 13 years old, looked up at me and smiled and said, hi. Said, hi. So are you guys going to church? And at first when I heard the question, I was like, we go to church, it's like a Tuesday. And I looked at her and I said, no, we work in this building here. We just came from lunch and we're about to walk across the street and go to this building. And she had this look upon her face that was kind of confused. She didn't get it, didn't grasp it, didn't understand it. I was, to her, my friend and I think, unicorns. Didn't get it. And then we crossed the street, said goodbye, they went on their way, we went on our way, walked back into the building. Daryl and I didn't say a word to each other the entire block that we walked into our building. Got into the office, went up to the stairs, sat down, or went up the elevator. And he came into my office immediately afterwards and he was like, man, I can't believe we didn't do anything. I can't believe we didn't say anything. We should have brought him into this office. We should have talked to those girls. They should know that we're lawyers. They should know that every Black man that they see dressed up isn't going to church, isn't necessarily a preacher. There's professionals here. There's Black men in this building that do things that are cooler than us. And both of us were going back and forth about all the things that we should have done, thinking to ourselves at that very moment, we had an opportunity to potentially change and shift maybe the direction of the mindset of these young ladies, their perspectives, for them to actually look at us as African-American men and understand that there is something different out there potentially for them. That was a big moment for us. It was a big moment for me, because I believe that in life you consistently get opportunities thrown to you to allow you to make an impact. And sometimes they're small, sometimes they're pretty large. You can change people's perspectives, you can give people hope. Sometimes you can challenge people to reevaluate their prejudices, or even open someone's mind to the possibilities that they never saw before. I believe that your life is supposed to be have value. You're to add to the world around you by having an impact, and hopefully that impact is positive. But make your mark, and it doesn't really matter what you do, whether you volunteer, whether you give, teach, train, mentor, sponsor, provide shelter, inspire, encourage, share, something that when you do that, you're helping out your community, but you're also, if you think about it, I think about it this way, you're helping to develop your own self and your own soft skills. Being able to be persuasive, being compassionate, be empathetic, understand, listening, all of those things are tools that I use today. And also, it helps you to receive your own teachable moment. Understand that we're not perfect and we all have an opportunity as well to experience those points in life. I can say to you right now that in the work that I do, the charitable work that I do, I know I do give a lot. As Ross mentioned, I do give a lot, but I also believe that I receive much more than I give. So I ask you, embrace the teachable moments, because sometimes in our lives, those moments are quick, and if we're not ready for them, we'll miss out on a golden opportunity to grow and to learn. So the second thing that I was going to talk about is failing like a champion. The reason why I say failing like a champion is because I think failure is a critical part of success. If you hear any success story, it's usually riddled with stories of failure within it. The founder of my company, Dyson, famously made 5,126 models of the Cyclone vacuum. None of them worked. It wasn't until he made the 5,127th that he actually had a model that worked that he could sell. And now, he's doing pretty well for himself, if I do say so myself. And that is the impact of failure, understanding, being okay with the fact that you are not succeeding. Sometimes we try to hide from it. Honestly, a lot of times we try to hide from it because it's one of those things that we don't want to share about ourselves, our imperfections. But in life, sometimes it's forced upon you because you can't hide from that failure. And that's when you really learn who you are. An interesting story about me, I'm going back even further. I'm going back to when I was in high school. I have two brothers. I have one older brother, one younger brother. I happen to be in the middle. I'm a middle child. My older brother, I don't know how many people here have older siblings. My older brother is annoyingly great at a whole lot of things. I don't know how many of you had that experience as well, where you had an older sibling that was the smartest in the room, maybe the most attractive, maybe the most athletic, the most popular, whatever it was. High school sucked for you because their existence. High school didn't really suck for me, so that's not true. But my brother Jeff was pretty impressive. And he was also a very accomplished track and field runner. As a matter of fact, he was the fastest person in the state of Minnesota. I'm not saying that because I believed it was, it's because it was on a damn newspaper that was in our house that he was the fastest person in the state of Minnesota. Anyway, I'm not bitter, I love my brother. He's now nowhere near as fast as he used to be. So when I was in high school, I was a sophomore, my brother was a senior. All the accolades about track and field were there. And he was the kind of go-to guy, the captain of the track team. And I just wanted to be on the team. I just wanted to run varsity track. In the midst of that, I actually realized I was pretty good at track and field. And I had the opportunity to be on the 4x100 meter relay team. So I don't know how many people pay attention to the Olympics, which is really the only time we really watch track and field. But in the Olympics, the 4x100 meter relay is when you have 4 people and their job is to pass the baton all the way around the track. And the one who passes, the one who crosses the finish line first wins. It is a team event. I got to run the second leg. Now, because my brother, fastest person in the state of Minnesota, was on our team, we won a lot. We won a lot more than we lost. Because as long as we got close, as soon as Jeff got to the time, he usually passed whoever was in front of us, and hey, there we go. So here we are, senior year, my brother's senior year. We're at the state championships in track and field. We were one of the fastest teams there. We were all excited. We were all hyped, thinking, hey, man, we could actually win something. My brother, also very excited. It was also his graduation weekend. My entire family was there, extended family and everything. My mother has 9 brothers and sisters, and she is the second oldest. So when my mother had an event, everybody came. A lot of people in town. Also a couple thousand people who are watching their own kids compete in this meet. 4x100 meter relay, I'm excited, very excited. I think this is my opportunity to get a little bit of the glory that my brother normally has. Earlier that day, he won the state championship, and he was the 100 meter champion. So he had actually just solidified the fact that, yes, he was the fastest person in the state of Minnesota. The race starts. I'm running second leg. When the baton got to me, I just felt this jolt of energy. And I knew that I was meant to fly. I knew that it was it. This was my moment in the sun. I took off like a bolt. I looked to my left and looked to my right. There was no one next to me. And I realized at that point that it is glory time for me. And I took a few steps and I left nothing left in the tank. As a matter of fact, I gave so much in that burst of speed that I left the baton behind me in the middle of the track. Yeah, I dropped the baton. In front of everybody, my family and everything like that. Immediately I stopped, I thought to myself, God, the race isn't over. I can get back from this. I ran and picked up the baton and ran as fast as I could to exchange it. This is not a Disney moment. There's no way in the hell we were catching up. We were dead last. And it was a failure. And that pain hit me right away. And I just like, oh my God, not only did I fail, but I failed in front of all these people. But what really hit me is I thought I failed, and I felt that I failed my brother, which even made it worse. My coach came up to me afterwards, and he said, look, there's nothing I can say that's going to make this feel better. This sting is going to sting forever. He said, but I want you to know, this moment right here is probably going to make you the best athlete on the team next year. And then he walked away. Terrible speech at the moment, but afterwards, I realized he was right. I dedicated myself to making sure that never happened again. It's because of the loss, because of the pain of the loss and the public nature of the failure that I made sure that I dedicated myself and I got better. Oftentimes when you win, you never pay attention to the small stuff that got you there, and you don't dig in and you don't focus. If we would have won that race, I don't know if I'd have actually worked out that much that summer. I really don't know if I'd have spent the summer running track and working with my teammates trying to make ourselves better. I probably wouldn't have. Why? Because we were state champions, we won. But because of the failure, we really focused on trying to make sure that we were better. And that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about, and really focused on that failure. I think it's important that you share your failures. You talk about them, you study them. Some people think vulnerability is a flaw. I don't think it is. I think it's an asset. It shows your humanness and your capacity to learn and grow from your dark times. If you failed like a champion, sometimes you will emerge as an ultimate victor. So the journey of those failures usually become the roadmap to your future success. So the last thing I want to share with you for the next few minutes is avoid work-life balance. I'm not a fan of the phrase work-life balance. Why? Because I don't think it works. I don't think there is such a thing as work-life balance. Now, when I say that, I don't mean that I think all of you should stop all of your personal pursuits and only focus on work. And conversely, I'm not saying, especially with your bosses here, that you should avoid all things work and only focus on things that are personally important to you. What I'm saying is I think it's very difficult to look at the balance like a scale and take everything that's important to you in your professional life on one hand over here, and take everything that's important to you on your personal life over here, and try to find some way to get it even. I don't think that works. At some point in life, there is that, I don't know if you watch the cartoons, and you've got someone sitting on a ledge and it's about to teeter over, and all of a sudden that small feather or pebble or that bird sits in, and all of a sudden it comes toppling down. Eventually, I believe that's what's going to happen. Something has got to give. So what I say to that is, it really is, I think some people coined the phrase work-life integration. They use that. And I guess that's the way to say it. For me, it's more about being your whole self, 100% bringing your whole self there, and thinking of yourself as one whole and not like two separate people living two separate lives and trying to figure out a way to make it work. I don't think it works. I think it's too stressful, too difficult. You've got to be 100% your whole self. And how do you do that? I think you start to take a different perspective and a different look at what it is you do every day. Work stuff, home stuff, personal stuff, charitable stuff, whatever. No. I get to, and I have to. I learned this from my daughter. My daughter turns 14 this weekend. When she was 6, I remember I was sitting there packing for a trip. I wasn't really thrilled to go on the trip. I can't remember what it was for. I just remember that I wasn't happy that I had to travel on this trip. She came bouncing in the room. She's 6 years old, kindergarten. She was going on a field trip the very next day. So she said, "Dad, where are you going?" "I don't know. I got to go to Cleveland or something." "Dad, what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I'm going to go have some meetings, probably have to fire somebody. I don't know. I'm not really thrilled about this trip." And she's like, "You know what? Tomorrow, you know what I get to do? I get to go on a field trip. I get to ride the bus. I get to hang out with my friends in the museum all day. I get to get a lollipop. And we may get, maybe afterwards, they may give us ice cream." Now, kids and ice cream is a pretty dang big deal. But what I noticed about her is she flipped it then and asked me, she's like, "Well, but don't you get to get on a plane?" And I said, "Yeah." "And don't you get to go to a hotel?" And I was like, "Yeah." Once again, things kids really think are cool. And she said, "But then you get to order room service, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, you better believe I'm ordering room service." And then I thought about all that and I said, you know what? I like that. I didn't think about it at that moment because I was still kind of mad about the trip. But afterwards, I thought about that and I realized, you know what? As a kid, that's a cool way to actually think about life. I'm not going to focus on just that balance of one thing versus another, my personal life. I'm going to focus on the things that I get to do versus the things that I have to do. I'm going to celebrate the things that are important to me in my life because there are some really cool things I do at work. And there's a lot of cool things I do at home. And there's also things that I really don't like doing at work. There's things I really don't like doing at home. And I want to balance those things out. And I want to make sure that in my life every day, the things that I get to do outnumber the things that I have to do so that I can actually have a more fulfilling life all the way around. And that's how I actually choose to actually look at and approach life. So from a work standpoint, I get to lead a dynamic and diverse team of professionals every day. I get to engage in legal challenges with exceptional attorneys like Ross Weissman and the folks at Kirkland & Ellis. I get to spend time with my daughter, helping her with her homework. I get to be invited to share my perspective to this nice, lovely, warm audience here at Guerrero Media. Always want to make sure that you think about those things in the terms of I get to do, and focus on trying to make sure that that balance for you is really important. Because I will warn you, if you start finding out that your have-tos outnumber your get-tos, it's time for you to make a change in some part of your life, whether it's work or private life or personal life. So, as I wrap up my remarks today, I just wanted to leave you with at least one takeaway. Because actually I'm always humbled when people actually ask me for my time. It seems kind of weird to me. It's whether it's a friend of mine who's got trouble and just needs a nice kind word of advice, or a mentor of mine who's looking for advice on what their next job is. I always look at myself and say, you know what? I just really got to try to do my best to do the right thing and say the right thing so that they leave me better off and leave in a stronger position than before. But then I'm also reminded of the words of Maya Angelou, who's one of my favorite authors. She has said, famously, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you do, but they will never, ever forget how you made them feel. So I take this to heart with everything I am and everything I do, whether it's my, my work life or my personal life. And hopefully today, in this time that we've spent together, that I've made you feel maybe a little bit more inspired, hopefully a little entertained, a little more curious, and maybe a little more confident in your ability to make a more lasting impact on yourself and the community around you. So thanks, that's it. I'm gonna stop now and hopefully let you get on to whatever it is you get to do next. Thank you.
Can we have one more round of applause for Jason, please?
All right.
Before
I didn't really leave. I'm still here. Sorry.
Before I turn it over to you guys for questions, I'd like to end this section with a quick rapid-fire series of questions for Jason, so we can get to know him a little bit better. So, Jason, your job is to answer each one of these questions in one sentence or less.
In one sentence or less?
One sentence or less.
I'm a lawyer, you know that, right? Do my best.
That's right. All right, first one. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
I thought about this question. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna get to the sentence. My superpower, it would be flight.
Flight?
Flight. I would like to be able to fly. Yes, yes.
Second question. Aside from the hair dryer, what's your favorite Dyson product?
So this changes from time to time. And right now, my favorite Dyson product is our air purifier, the Hot Plus Cool. Purified, it's linked, it's pretty cool. It's a purifier, but it can blow out warm air or cool air. And then it's also connected to your phone, and it can measure whether or not your house needs purification and turns on automatically. So it's pretty cool. You should get one.
What is one app on your phone that you can't live without?
One app on my phone that I can't. Okay, so full disclosure, my daughter is a 14-year-old that I mentioned. She's a dancer, and she is the only person that I follow on Instagram. The only reason why I'm on Instagram, but she posts her dance videos there. And she's in LA, so in order for me to see her, so that's the one I cannot live without, because I cannot live without seeing my daughter dance.
Favorite TV show?
Of all time?
Sure.
My favorite TV show of all time has got to be The Chappelle Show. And there's, show is awesome.
And the last one, the toughest one. What is one thing you would do if you weren't afraid to do it?
One thing I would do if I what?
Weren't afraid to do it.
Well, I try not to live life with a lot of fears. So I would say the answer is probably jump out of an airplane, not because I'm afraid to do it, I just think it's crazy to actually want to jump out of an airplane. So not that I'm afraid to do it, I just think it's a strange way to spend an afternoon.
All right, now we're gonna go over to you guys. If you have a question for Jason, raise your hand. We have 2 mics going around, and we'll give you a mic, ask your question.
Tough crowd.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, it's very loud. My name's Elise, and I was just really loving what you were saying about failing like a champion and sharing that experience. And I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit more on how you share those experiences. So the relay race, everyone's there, they were going to see. So how do you bring up your failures and share them in a way that's constructive?
I think it happens oftentimes in maybe a group dynamic. Usually, especially at work, you're trying to gather around to solve problems. And when you gather around to solve problems, everyone starts talking about how they solved a similar problem in the past. Very rarely do you find people saying, you know what, I tried to solve the same problem before and it ended terribly. And let me tell you why it ended terribly. And because it ended terribly, I know that we shouldn't go this path. So that's probably a way where you talk about those failures. And sometimes it can be difficult, especially if it's recent and it happened at the same company where you're working, and it's really hard to kind of share that. Like, hey, yeah, I had this project and I didn't hit that deadline, or I didn't do this because of all these other factors, to kind of warn people in advance, say, hey guys, let's look at it this way. So that's one way to do it in a group setting, especially if the group is familiar to you and feel comfortable and safe. I would say do it that way. As a leader, anyone here is a manager, I think you need to incorporate the whole notion of talking about your mistakes as much as you possibly can in those dynamics. So not just as a team member, but as a leader, you need to be and show your team that you're comfortable with it. You need to show them that you're comfortable with them making mistakes. I've been with several different organizations, Ross mentioned a lot of them, and I can tell you right now, I believe the organizations that are most successful are ones that actually embrace their employees being able to make mistakes. They acknowledge it, they get it, but it doesn't end your career. You shouldn't run from it. They actually embrace it and tell you, oh wow, yep, that was bad. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. But then you keep pushing on and keep fighting, and that's leadership. So you've got, as a leader, also take heed to that and talk about failure.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a question about fear. Boy, my voice sounds so weird.
I'm feeling the same way. It's just like this weird thing.
So fear and failure are cousins.
Yes.
So have you developed any behaviors or process or dynamic to help you get over fear or address fears when it comes to being fearless about failure?
Yeah, I think for me, and it evolves over time. I don't think it's easy, but it's really becoming comfortable with the consequences. Fear isn't, when you jump out of an airplane, you're not afraid of the air, you're not afraid of the clouds, you're afraid of the ground, really. I mean, that's what you're afraid of. You're afraid of hitting the ground, so you're afraid of the consequences. And so for me, the approach is to really understand what the consequences are and understanding that at the end of the day, it isn't necessarily a career killer. At the end of the day, just a quick side note, when I used to work at Miller Coors, Karen Ripley was my general counsel. And when I was there, Karen always would approach a scenario saying, well, wait a minute, are we gonna have to go back to the 29th Amendment? Like, is there gonna be no beer? Are we gonna have no alcohol? And if the answer is, well, no, then she's like, okay, then what are you worried about? Right? Because bad things happen all the time. I mean, you're gonna, take chances, but as long as we're not going back to the days of no alcohol, we're gonna be okay. And I thought about that. Obviously, it's scenarios, but it makes a lot of sense. Are you shutting down the company? Is what you're gonna do close the door so that no one can come in here ever again? No. Well, then then it's okay to take a risk. So for me, it took a while to get there, but it's actually attacking the consequences and not just actually the fear.
Hello.
Hello.
That was loud. My name is Ryan. I just actually had a similar question that was just asked, but I have a second one I'll ask instead. So as far as that work-life balance that you were talking about, what are some of the ways that you think that companies can help with that, bridge that gap between work life and just general life in general?
Well, there's a few things that I know, my particular company and I've heard other companies do to try to bridge that gap, and that's actually trying to, authentically care about the things that are happening outside of your world. So if there are charities that you support, boards that you're on, to allow you to let that be known within the company and have them participate and be supportive of it in whatever way that is, whether it's financial or offering you time to go and do those things. Families that, companies that actually, there's a lot of people who have families, having events where people bring their families. Sometimes it can be a little dicey, so you gotta be careful about how much you do that. But it really is kind of opening that up so that a company or an individual can feel more of their whole self at work. I've seen employee resource groups work very well. I've also seen them work poorly when they're directed only one particular reason as opposed to really talking about being more open and more engaged. But I think it's just the start is being more purposeful and making sure that you understand what your employees care about within the office and outside.
Hi, my name is Allie, and I just wanted to know, at what point did you realize how important having a diverse team is, and how did that influence your career moving forward?
I realized it. How did I realize it was important? I realized it was a thing when I was on my first team and realized I was the only Black person on my team, and realized that, well, I mean, it did take long to realize that, but when I was the only Black person on my team, and then also that my perspective was different from everybody else's on one particular issue. And I realized that we were going to go in one direction because everybody else just thought, well, that's just the way to go. That's how this person is going to respond. And I said, well, I think it's going to be kind of different, guys. And then I realized that in that instance, if you have everyone as the same, looking the same background, same experience, you are going to get the same result, kind of consistently. And it's really only when you start adding different bits, and it's not just race, it's not just gender, it's actually really broadening it to understand that people, just based on even where they grew up, what part of town they grew up in, they may have a different perspective. And in the legal world, when you're actually trying to be more creative and coming up with solutions on attack problems, wow, I've really seen some great things happen when you actually diversify a team and get people that have just a whole different set of experiences from the other, challenge each other about how something is going to resonate, especially like with the jury, or something is going to resonate with a population of employees, and those types of things. It's really important. So very early on in my career, I noticed that, and ever since then, I've tried to be on diverse teams. And when I had the power, I always tried to make sure that I created diverse teams.
Hi, I'm Norman.
Hi.
Hi. If in retrospect, what would you tell those two little girls?
I'm sorry. In retrospect, what I what?
What would you tell the two little girls on the street?
What would I tell the two little girls? I would, I had a whole speech plan many years ago. But really, what I would have done is actually shared with them my story. Tell them that I was born and raised in Minneapolis, probably like they were. Tell them that I went to high school with dreams of actually becoming a lawyer, and I actually did that. That I work at the law firm and wear that suit, and I have a pretty cool job. There's a lot of fun things I get to do every day. I would have shared with them all of that, and in today's day and age, you got to be careful. You take those girls up to the office, and people think you're kidnapping them. So you got to be mindful of those kind of things. But at that time, I think I would have tried to show them that perspective, so they would actually believe and understand that, for those of you who don't know, I should be very clear. Most Black churches, everyone dresses up. I'm not just, that's the thing, right? And so for them, when they see somebody dressed up, immediately that's what comes to mind. Not just that it's somebody died or it's a funeral. Black churches, people dress up, that's it. And so for her, I'm just trying to get her to understand that there is a different path, that you can actually see professional Black men doing something other than going to church.
Hi, I'm Evan.
Hello.
Thank you. How do you distinguish between the things that you have to do and
things that you get to do continually?
The benefit that it has for you in your life. So the things that I wrote about, the things that I get to do. So are things that at the end of the day will add something to make me a better lawyer, make me a better leader, make me a better father. All of those things line up to things that you get to do. It's not just the fun stuff, because sometimes you think about it and I, look, I'm a lawyer, so I speak from a legal lens. So all of you have very, very different careers. But to me, something that you may not think is exciting as a junior lawyer is reviewing a deposition transcript, right? So you say, I'm reading through hundreds of pages of a deposition transcript. Isn't that fun? But you know what? I get to do it because it allows me and gives me the opportunity to become a better lawyer. To sit there and review that and understand the nuances of, well, that was a terrible question, or man, that's a bad answer. And hey, this may help our case. I get to do those things because they actually help me with my path and my future. The things that I have to do are things that are very different than that. So right now I'm in a position where I actually review legal bills. Now I have to do that because my company will be really mad, and so will Ross be very mad if I don't review those bills and pay those bills.
Just a second.
Yeah. So it's something that I have to do. It's not something that's adding value to my legal career. It's not something that I'm going to take home and tell my kids, hey, guess what I did today? I reviewed a bunch of legal bills. But it is something that I have to do. Taking out the trash is something that you have to do. But to me, things like, like I mentioned, helping my kid with homework. I hate math. I hated math when I was in school. I hate the fact that I actually have to still do math because my kids are in school. But what I like about it is I get to spend time with my kids doing something. So that's I get to do as opposed to I have to do.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Before we head up for some drinks and food, can we please have one more round of applause for Jason? Thank you, everyone. Yes. It has to be.
Yeah, of course. Right. And it's always been the reason why it's not like Uh-oh. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Nice job, Jason.
All right. It's always those weird things because as you like have those weirdest things. Make sure
Yes.
you're like, yes, my whole team.
I know.
Yeah. And everyone's particular about their pen. Yeah, I know. I like the particular. So I think everyone is that way.
I feel a little strange about the things I see. I don't know which way's up or who I'm meant to be. The world's big and free. It's made of fantasy. The darkest beat deleted the word that I made.
All you give to me is new love. Like a feather in the sand, the sky in the hand of blue.
We've been through some things together. We were so close. Don't you remember? When I see you wandering way out there, I pretend you love me. I pretend you care. I saw you walking just the other day. I saw you turn your eyes away. I've got some feeling I can't share. I pretend you love me. I pretend you care. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know. I don't know. I stand around and I stare. I look in the mirror. I don't see me anywhere. Now I'm waiting. Don't stay. And the ways they're thrown to me. Well, I dare. If you see me wandering where you said you love me, return. You said you care. See, David, hanging back. Leave my name in your thighs. All the world say surprise. Terrified and bizarre. Long time, long time. See your face. What's it like to share in space? Freeze from this world of hate. I'm on a trail that I've slid from out the floor. Comes to watch you, but like I see you from afar. Seems like you all the time. Just share some stories from your life. It's no time like a prison night. On the side, now I see all your secrets are safe with me. Shitty songs, shitty heart, shitty homes, shitty hearts. Push away, I touch my scar. It's your name. Won't stop, won't stop.
There it comes. There it comes. There it comes now. Introduction. Introduction. Orange. Orange. I tell you, the manager, Mr. Pim Saunders, on the bass, getting king, Belenga, on the drum, stop that fire, see color, on the keyboard, Bob Jones, rumba, on lead, Christians, Melwood, on rhythm, John Music, Mumba, I like it, I need it, I like it, I need it, I like it, I need it, I need your love, I need it. I like it, I need it, I need your love, I need it. Introduction. All this.
I could love you more and more each day forever. Then I'd sit around all day just crying happy tears. The dance and sing my life away, laughing with you. My darling, softly to me. Orange sugar chocolate, hot cinnamon, and lovely things in you. And darling, you know there was really nothing else that I could do. But dance and sing my life away, laughing with you. My darling, softly to me. And my darling, you will never know how elegant you'll always be to me. And my darling, I was so in love, it's evident for anyone to see. I suppose they hope what we already do. And how come so suddenly everything depends on you? The dance in my life away, and laughing with you. My darling, softly to me. And if I kiss you once, I can't do it again. But then that's not so inconceivable, my friend. The dance in my life away, and laughing with you. My darling, softly to me. I'd like to understand what's wrong. I feel like I have help. Tell me how you even started. To live here, you've got to give more than you get. That's under. But I said it's alright. I'd like to understand today that maybe I was who I was when I was, and it was yesterday. Seasons and reasons on display, and
it's true. We came down on the firing line. This and you. All I need is peace of mind. Looking for a place to hide. Run away and close my eyes. Everything's Slowly, it's peace of mind. Looking for a place to hide. Run away and close my eyes. Everything's changing, I can't hide. Set me free. Set me free. I see an unhealthy fascination in those who come from a different nation, caught up in some fantasy that's fueling their hypocrisy. They're seeking only refuge from those who can refuse, asking because they have to, not because they want to. No turning back. No turning back. Some papers claiming that it's an invasion, and no further explanation. If they were friends or family, they would be show our sympathy. This street is a vacuum from which there is no way for them to escape to, nowhere to go back to. No turning back. Let's not elevate, no exaggerate. Time to educate, can't afford to wait. No turning back. No turning back. Oh, we get no turning back. They don't want our money. They don't want our welfare. Our money, our welfare. Money, welfare. No turning back. No turning back. No turning back.